Okay, so here we have my 2017 Jaguar XE 2-litre diesel. Had some new tyres put on it the other day, and the garage informed me that the rear brake pads were extremely low, needed changing, and so I'm going to have a go at that, because the first thing they told me was that you needed diagnostic equipment in order to remove the electronic parking brake. But a bit of investigation on the internet, and I found a script here on the internet which shows you how to take the electronic parking brake off. So I'm going to go inside and give that a try. Okay, so sitting inside the car, I have my script here, and we're going to give it a try, see if we can get this thing into maintenance mode. So it's on ignition. Press down on the parking brake for 2 seconds. 1001, 1002. Floor the accelerator for 2 seconds. 1001, 1002. And then cycle the ignition switch. 1, 2. And I don't know if that's worked or not. Okay, I need to check. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. That says parking brake in maintenance mode, or it, there we go, it's cycling park brake in maintenance mode, look. So that's what we're looking for. That's good. And I'll write out how to get it into maintenance mode when I put the videos up. Right, under the bonnet then. I'm not sure how essential this part is, but I watched a couple of videos online, and they recommended that the battery should not drop below 12.1 volts during the whole of this operation. And since it's going to take me probably a couple of days because the bits haven't been delivered yet, I'm just stripping it today. I'm going to put the battery on charge to make sure. So to put your battery on charge, over here, left hand side, there's the positive cover there, and down here, over here, we've got an earthing point that we can earth to. So it's quite simple. Open the cover there, take off the little cap. He says it's quite simple. There you go, take off the little cap, exposing the terminal. That's where your red connection goes. Red connection on there. And if I can find it, where's the, there we go. Sorry, I'm wobbling all over the place with this, aren't I? And then, okay, so good earth point on the chassis. There we go, so we've got our earth. I think actually that might be the earth point up there. Looking at it, I think that's an earth point. So I'm going to put it up there instead, and we'll soon tell. Okay, so plug in the battery charger. What's she taking? Taking about 1.5 amps. So I've noticed that just lately my stop-start hasn't been working, and actually if the battery drops too low, the stop-start doesn't work either. So I think that's what the cause is. So we'll leave that on charge whilst we're doing the job. Okay, I'll try and show the jacking point here, but it's not a lot of light under here. I'll probably show you easier when the car's up in the air a bit. But laying down under the car, if you look underneath, you have a plastic cover, comes all the way along, and then you come to this point here, and there's a gap in the plastic point, and there's a gap the other side. There's several pieces of metal joined together here. It's about maybe 6 inches forward of the wheel arch, thereabouts, and that's where the jacking point is. In fact, I'm just noticing now, here, just here, there is actually an arrow moulded into the plastic of the sill cover, which shows you exactly where your jacking point is. So I'm going to put the jack under there now and we'll lift the car. Don't forget, slacken off your wheel nuts before you do this. Okay, here we are, wheel up, and just under here you can see the jacking point, and just there's the arrow that shows you where to place your jack. Next stage, wheel off, and then axle stands under. Okay, I'm not really happy with the lighting in here. I don't know what you can see. It seems a bit dark to me, but anyway, the wheel's off. Okay, certainly I've just looked at the brake pads, and they certainly need changing. Not much life left in them. And just here on this big rubber bush that holds the can we see that? Yeah, this big rubber bush here, this is where we place the axle stand underneath, yeah, on the bolt that holds the subframe up. Okay, so I'm going to put the axle stand in place now, and then I'll go and do the other side. Okay, under the back of the car, and there's the axle stand in place, just sitting up there onto that bush, nice and central. And so now what I'm going to do is very gently lower the car onto that. Okay, so there we go. Jack's out the way, axle stands in place. This driver's side. Here we have the wear indicator. I don't know what we can see in there, but if you can see or not. But we've got maybe 2 or 3 mil left on the actual pads. And if you look at the condition here, you know, the disc it's not in great shape. It's quite pitted, a bit rusty. They certainly need changing. So I'm going to go around now and do exactly the same thing on the other side, jack the car up, get it nicely settled down on its axle stands. Okay, and then we'll start stripping it down. That's the other side done. There she is, nicely up on the axle stands. I like to push the wheels underneath the car just in case of some unforeseen happening, and the car should come off an axle stand. There's still something to support it there, but that's just me. I like to do that. So on to the next stage, which is stripping down. Okay, so we're just going to have a little look at the arrangement here. So obviously you've got your disc on the outside, then you've got your caliper here. Your caliper is, when it operates, it slides up and down on these 2 slides here. There's one here and no one at the bottom here. So as you operate your brakes, caliper slides on those 2 slides. To remove we need to remove the caliper in order to change the brake shoes, and in order to remove the caliper we have to remove those 2 sliding bolts there to do so. Once we've got the caliper off, I can show you a bit more. But the caliper, if you look at the top here, there's 2 like rubber boots. There's a plastic cap on the top, whoops, which I've just dropped. So there's a plastic cap that doesn't want to stay. There you go, plastic cap like that goes in the end there, and down here, if I can see it there, this is what we're looking at here. There's another one there. There we go. That's the other cap out. So those come out, and then inside here, I think they're Allen keys. I'm just okay. So I've just chucked inside the rubber boot here, and it's just a 7mm Allen key that you need for that. First thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to take out the wear sensor, and that should just wiggle. There we go. Pull it out. It looks fine. It's not worn in any way, so I will reuse that. Tuck that back out the way. Now then, you may find let's put that up there. There you go. You may find you need a little bit of extra purchase. You may have something posh. I just stick a ring spanner on there. There we go. Okay, so that one's loose. Let's just loosen the top one. Put that in there. Hold on. So, top one's there. Get my ring spanner on there. Not doing that quite right, am I? I want to go the other way. Hold on, let's put that up there. Yes, it was. Yeah, that's it. If I can get the Allen key in properly, it will help enormously. We go. And hopefully we can get some pressure behind it. No, I'm gonna have to sit up for this. Right, okay. There she goes. Top one was a little tight. There we go. Okay, and that's loose. And so is that. Okay, so now I'm happy I can get them both off. We'll just spin those off. Oh, actually, now I'm forgetting something here. Okay, those are loose, so that's fine. Before we do this, on the front, there's a spring that's got to come off. I'd forgotten all about it. So if we look here, where is it? Right, so you can see here, there's a spring, goes all the way down there and down to the bottom. So to get that off, we can get a screwdriver into it and just ease that out. Not done this. It's the first time I've done one of these, you might have gathered. So there we go, that one's out. There you go. Once you've got one side out, the other side should just wiggle out. There you go. Okay, so can't see on the screen. There we go. There's your spring there. Okay, that just comes out. All right, so having taken that out, let's continue with taking the slide screws out. So they're not. Okay, that's loose. I can't quite get it out. Let's do the bottom one. You can see here, they're turning. There you go, that one. There you go, that one's come out easy enough. So there's one of the pins there. That's what they look like. It's a little bit. I'll give it a clean up, see what it's like. Oh, it's just dirt on it actually. I thought it was pitted, but it's not. Looks okay. All right, so we've got two of those pins. One at the top, one at the bottom. There's the other one. Okay, one at the top, one at the bottom, and that should leave the caliper free now. We've taken the spring off. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to get a big screwdriver. I'm just going to lever it back to give me a bit of play. Okay, so here's the caliper. I'm just going to take my long screwdriver here and insert it there, just see if I can pull the caliper forward a bit like so, just to compress the piston a little bit before I take it off. Give me a bit of slack to work with. That's working nicely. You can see now, caliper's nice and loose. I'm just going to pull it off. There we go, here's the caliper. I just tuck that away, up there. nice and safe. And then, okay, just saying goodbye to the wife. Right, so I've tucked the caliper up on the A-frame here just to keep it out of the way, make sure none of the wires are under tension, make sure the brake tube isn't under tension. And now we can see there's one brake pad, and there's the other one. And looking at them, if you can see that, you might say that needed doing badly. I would think there's no more than 2 millimeters of wear left on that. The brake sensor, the brake wear sensor, that fits on the inner caliper, with the one with these two springs. That's the inner pad, and it fits into this little slot here. And this one hasn't worn so badly, the inner one. So in actual fact, this would have worn out, or the outer pad would have worn out before the brake pad wear sensor actually cut in, I think, on this occasion. So I'm very pleased to be doing it before that happened. Okay, so that's the caliper out the way, that's the pads out the way. In order to change the rotor or the disc, then we need to remove the actual carrier here. So coming around the front, this is the carrier, carries the caliper itself. It's only held on with 2 bolts, and we can just see them. One here that I've got my finger on, and one just behind the caliper, so I'm going to have to move the caliper to get them out. I think they're 15 millimeter, if I remember from, what's that? That's too big. Hold on, I think we might have a 15 millimeter somewhere. Is that 15? Yeah. Okay, so I've got a 15 here. Yeah. I think, yeah, they're 15 millimeter. So there you go, there's a spanner on it. 15 millimeter bolts, 2 of them. Okay, just to make things a little easier to get the caliper out of the way while I take the caliper carrier off, I've just removed the wear sensor from this little clip here, and I've also removed the ABS sensor, sorry, not sensor, the connection wire from this electrical connection here. I'll just tuck those both up out the way there. So there's the electrical connector. To remove it, it's got a little clip here. You push that clip upwards and just wiggle it. You might need to get a screwdriver under it just to gently ease it up, but it comes off easy enough. And then we've got the brake wear sensor there as well, which I'll clean up presently. Okay, so I'm going to tuck those up out the way. And now, when we look back here, okay, you can see much more easily the back of the hub. We've got the carrier bolts, one here and another one here. Okay, 15 millimeters. Okay, I'm not sure whether you'll be able to see what I'm doing here, but the little ring spanner wasn't strong enough. I've got a 15mm socket on it. These are pretty tight, I have to say, but you can see, you can hear it in fact, the carrier's coming loose. Just keep going with this. There we go. Slow but sure. It's easing up a bit now. Okay, there's one carrier bolt. Turn attention to the other one, which I slackened off first. Pretty tight, but going. finger tight. Yeah, finger tight now. It's coming. There we go. There's the second carrier bolt. And now, quite simply, lift the carrier away. There it is. Looks okay. Right. Okay. Okay, so caliper's off, resting safely down there. The leads are off and tucked out the way. Just taken the actual caliper carrier off. So you can see them. If you can see if it looks a bit dark. This is the motor for the electronic parking brake. Now we want to take the actual disc itself off. So what's holding it in place? Here we've got a T50 Torx headed screw. That's all that's holding the disc onto the hub. So I'm going to release that now, and we'll see how tight it is on the hub. Sometimes they come off quite easily, other times you have to give them a bit of a tap. T50. We'll see how we get on. Let's see how we get on. Okay, that's not going to go willingly. Okay, so I've got my T50. I've jammed the disc against the ground with a big screwdriver. It's a bit tight. There we go. Right, that's got it. There we go. On T50 off. Okay, it looks as if the disc is pretty hard on there. I'm just going to go and get a mallet and we'll see if we can knock it off. Trying to see if we can get the disc off. Let's start with a rubber mallet. We'll see how we get on. There we go. That's the disc off. Okay, so got disc off successfully. Just having a look at it now. I mean, to me, that, considering the car's only 5 years old, it's is it 5 years old? No, 6 years old. Considering the car's only 6 years old, there's quite a lot of rust, quite a lot of damage. Although it's not too, the ridges aren't too deep, but there's quite a bit of corrosion there on the back. It's not too bad, but it doesn't, you know, the wear's not that even. Anyway, we're changing it, so get that done, and here's your hub left afterwards, and I'll give that a good old wire brushing in a minute, get rid of some of that corrosion, and then when I reassemble it, I'll put some anti-seize, actually put some anti-seize grease around here. And it's nice to see actually that when this has been done before, somebody's done that. There's some copper coat on there, which is why I didn't have too much trouble getting it off. Right, so that's one side stripped, just now needs to be cleaned up, ready for reassembly, and I shall nip round and do the other side exactly the same. Okay, that's both sides stripped, so driver's side, and then come round, passenger side, all stripped down. And without trying to film, this one didn't take me much more than about, I would think, about 10 minutes to strip that down. Not too bad at all. And so for the job so far, all I've needed, 2 screwdrivers, one to lever back the caliper with, and the other to take the spring off with. That's all I needed them for. 7mm Allen key, a 15mm socket, a T50 Torx head, a socket drive, and I just use that as a bit of leverage on the Allen key, and a rubber mallet in order to actually knock the old discs off, and that's all I needed. So there you go. Next stage, cleaning up, okay, and then reassembly. Something I didn't show you earlier. So here's the caliper. It's just sat on top at the moment. I haven't reassembled it because I only used the screwdriver to push back the piston enough to get a bit of wiggle room so I could just remove it. But because the piston, which is here, is still protruding from the gator, and unless we push that back in, yeah, we won't have enough room to get the new brake shoes on when they arrive. Now some people will put a pair of grips from, yeah, if I can show you, put a pair of grips between here and here and try and do it, and you can do that, but you do risk your rubber boot. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this on camera because it's a little fiddly. You really need two hands. I've got a tool here which I use for this purpose. Wasn't expensive. It fits in here. There's two pins on the end of it, and they fit into the two little grooves on the piston there, like so. And then you have a strength plate, and that fits in there like so. And then I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it single-handed. Just tighten that up like so, and what that's doing is applying pressure from the back of the caliper onto the piston. And I'm not going to be able to do it single-handed, I don't think, because I've now got to I've got to hold it all in place, and then I've got to put a spanner on here and turn that backwards. And as I turn it backwards, the screw will extend in that direction, and it will push the piston home nicely. So I'll show you that. So we're showing the pushback tool assembled here. So here's your caliper. There's the strong back. This is the tool. There's your piston. And then you simply get a spanner on there, and as I wind that back, so the piston is being pushed in. Oops, try not to dent the car. Okay, that was a bit fiddly single-handed, so I had to turn the camera off for a second, but now you can see the piston is pushed back nice and flush. Make sure that the boot is still behind the piston. It's not sticking out forward of the piston. Sometimes happens if you get air in. Otherwise you trap your rubber boot when you put it back together and damage it. You can see now that's nicely back and flush. And that very second, as we were talking, you're a part of deliver the new parts, so that's excellent news. One thing to note, when you're pushing back those pistons, just take the top off your brake fluid reservoir, because obviously as you're pushing the piston back, fluid gets pushed back, and you don't want that to overflow, so just keep an eye on that and make sure you're not going to put brake fluid all inside and overflow it. Just in case there was any doubt about whether they needed doing, there you go, look, there's a new one, yeah, and oops, there's the old one. I think we can agree they needed doing. Alright, I'm intending to start reassembly, putting it all back together again. Try and find somewhere to put the camera where you can see what's going on. That should do, roughly there, hopefully. Okay, I always like to use a bit of copper slip on my studs. I'm just going to do that. Put a bit of copper slip on here. Makes things easier to get apart next time. Lovely stuff. Some people say this is old school now, and that there's a move to ceramic grease. I haven't used that myself yet. I've always had good results with copper slip, so I'm quite happy to stick to the old stuff at the moment. And I'm just going to put a smear around the edge of the the edge of the hub so that hopefully when I come to do it next time it will come apart with ease. At least that's the overall plan. A bit in that. That should do it. Right. Okay. Okay, so first things first, time for the new disc. Make sure you line up with the retaining screw. There we go. On that, get our retaining screw. T50, remember. Again, used a bit of copper coat on it. There we go. There we go. Right. Okay, so that's in place. So having got that in, the next thing is our carrier with our two 15mm. I've cleaned this all up, got rid of all the old brake dust off it, and I like to put a little bit of copper grease on the area where the brake pads actually go. Yeah, so it fits in there. Two 15mm bolts all greased up, ready to go. Right, get these in the back here. Let's see where they go. Where's the other one? There we go. Okay, 15mm. I got the wrong socket. Nope. Awkward. There we go. There we go, there's the carrier on. And I'll just give those a... You've got the carrier torqued up. I'm going to put the pads in now. The one with the springs, that goes on the inboard side and carries the wear sensor. And the one without the springs, solid here, that comes on the outboard side, like so. Now, if I've got the piston pushed back properly, it should fit just so. Okay, now you have to make sure those springs are properly seated on the inside of the caliper. So in here, when I come to put the bolts in a second, just have to make sure that those springs are not sticking out of this hole and are properly seated against the inside of the caliper. Okay, so looking at the back of the caliper here, I've got my first slide bolt in just there, second slide bolt in just there, just to hold the caliper square, and I've made sure that the springs are seated against the inside of the caliper there. So what I'm going to do now is just tighten up those two slide bolts. Okay, so two slide bolts tightened up, and don't forget your little caps in the end to keep them nice and clean. Okay, and now I've got to put the spring on the front. So I don't think this is something I can do single-handed. You got the two holes, it goes on like so, with these tucked behind there in that orientation. Yeah, so I'll just do that quickly off camera. See how I get where is it? There it is. Okay, so there you go. There's your spring. There's your spring back in place. Okay, so that's one side all done. Just need to do the other side now. Actually, telling a lie there. It's not one side all done at all. I forgot to put the wear sensor in, and it just simply slots in like so, and then it's little, so it just slots in there. You can see it just there into the hole, and then this just slots back into the carrier like so, and that's job done. And then I'd also disconnected the electrical connector here. There, just see, you see that? Yeah, oh, there it is. Hard to see on the screen sometimes. And then that should just click back into place. And then we put the little clip back in. There we go, all done.